What is up, nerds of cars, car nerds, everybody that's watching, listening, whatever you're doing? Hello, we're back again. Fuel for Thought Podcast. I'm Jay.
Kevin.
And this is episode 24. Yes, we've already been doing this for 24 weeks already. And today is a bit of a different one. It's not really about cars. It's more about the excitement we get from cars. So we're going to talk about the psychology of car nerds. And I think we're all car nerds, and you probably are too if you're watching this. So yeah, what should we discuss first, Kevin?
It's a very interesting topic that we've discussed for some time now. Like, because really, like, if you're a car guy, it makes sense. Like, oh, it's a car, like, it's something that brings me joy. But for non-car people, it's like I can't wrap my head around it. But just like, just something that gets me from point A to point B.
Yeah, and like, it goes both ways too. It's like they don't understand it. People who don't like cars don't understand it, and we also don't understand how they could feel that way. You know, like we can't really articulate it properly to some people. Like some people get it, they can understand and relate it to something else, but other people just don't understand.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to try to do today. Essentially break down what we get out of cars, and to maybe, if your significant other doesn't understand it, can use these points to kind of persuade them into agreeing to, let's say, buying a Porsche GT3 RS instead of a house.
That's the most important part.
Yeah. So yeah, you want to kick us off with the first point?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, I think for most people, this is probably something that applies, and I know for myself as well, is that of aspiration and desire. And the reason I say this is just because, like, every young kid that's into cars, or people that are into cars as grown-ups and can link it back to their childhood, have some faint memory of them having some kind of car poster, or their dad had some cool 80s Mustang or something that really sparked their interest in cars and really got them on that track. So for them, it was kind of like a dream, and they had these like posters or whatever else, a vision board at some point that had, I don't know, a Pagani Huayra or a Koenigsegg or a Lambo on it. And like it's just a very easy way to tell that it's just like an aspirational thing. Like it's something car people aspire to have in their life, and it might take some people 50 years. Some might never even achieve it, which is really sad, but let's hope everyone does. Yeah. But yeah, it's just something you're working towards, and it's kind of like an end goal, as like, as many people would have maybe for a career. Like for us, maybe it's cars,
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest points. It's kind of, a lot of the times, I know we got this as when we were young, like people will tell you, oh, you can't have this. Let's say you dream about a Ferrari or Lamborghini. Someone will tell you, you can't have this. Like, what are you, crazy? Like, you can't buy that.
Yeah.
And a lot of us get fueled by that. It's like, we will see progress in our life, and we'll work our asses off to get to that point and create something out of our lives, because we're like, we want to prove them wrong, but also we want to prove to ourselves that, like, hey, I can do this. If I put my mind to it, I can, obtain what I was dreaming of.
Yeah. And you see that a lot too with like people that, they come from a family that has no interest in cars, or like no one in their direct bloodline has any interest in cars. And again, like you said, it's like a way for them to prove something, that they can work towards something, but it's also almost a way of like standing out. They have like something that they're so passionate about, and they're just like, I want a way to stand out, a way to show people my character. Like cars come in all shapes, sizes, and forms, and different engine types and everything, right? So for every single person, I feel like there's a car for them. So I think that's maybe part of it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is kind of, in a way, not like a bad thing, but kind of a status symbol.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of differentiates you from the pack. Similar to, let's say, a Rolex, right?
Yep.
Like, I don't really care about watches, but if I see someone with a Rolex, I know what it is, I know what it means, and automatically, I know it's kind of shitty thinking, but it's like, oh, this person is worth a lot, and therefore must bring a lot of value to society. And that's kind of how we see, luxury and luxury lifestyle and things like that.
Yeah.
And cars are a big part of this luxury lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that's also kind of the bad rap that these cars get sometimes. Like people see it from the outside, much like a Rolex. Like you might have someone who's super into like timekeeping and enjoys the whole process of like, the gears and everything and all, and the handcraft that goes into like making a watch. But some people there's those people that just buy it because it's a status symbol. And that kind of creates this idea that people just buy it because it's a status symbol. And kind of same thing goes for cars. You have all these Hollywood celebrities and rappers just buying these cars that really don't care about them, but it's because it's a status symbol. That kind of gives us a bad rap too. So I feel like that's definitely something that needs to be mentioned, and
I think
it's a big part.
A big part of it is Instagram.
Yeah.
I hate to shit on the platform, but before Instagram, I felt like, let's say you went out to buy a Lamborghini Gallardo Superleggera, you would buy it because you want a lighter car that you can take to the track and is more, better at handling. But now, with Instagram and this whole flex culture, it's kind of lost its taste. That's why I believe the Huracan did so well, because it's like a status symbol, like you mentioned. People want a Lamborghini, people want the newest, greatest Lamborghini, so they go for the Huracan, but they don't really care about the performance or what it sounds like or what it looks like. And that's why you see people they're on the bigger, badder body kit, or the crazy wrap and crazy wheels. It's become less about the car and the enjoyment and more flashiness.
Yeah, I mean, even going back to our G-Wagon episode, right? It's a sweet car, but just because it's become this status symbol, it's literally just become that. It's not even an interesting car for people to drive in LA anymore, because everyone has one. It's what Range Rovers were 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So yeah, it's kind of sad to see things like that sometimes, because before the internet ages, and not even the internet ages, but just before all this flex culture and influencer stuff was going on. But anyway, so I wanted to move on a little bit and also talk about when you actually get to driving. So I know in childhood, we have this desire, we have this poster maybe that we're excited about, and we want a certain car. We have a vague idea of what cars we might like. But then you get to the age of being able to drive. And all of you that can drive, which probably most of you, know that feeling where you drive your entry-level Beater, whatever, your mom's minivan, whatever you're driving as your first car after you get your driver's license, and you suddenly get this different calling, this feeling that you know how to drive, and you just start imagining what it would be like to drive a car that has insane cornering, or that you can push you back in your seat when you're accelerating. And honestly, that's kind of what fuels the adrenaline and the insanity of your dreams. You feel this passion of just this connection to driving, and you enjoy driving, both of us do. Just driving anywhere, it doesn't matter where, it's just enjoyable. And then you get to this point where you just imagine every car at every level and how it would be to drive that and how nice it would be to drive it. So I think that's also part of it, and the aspiration to have something that just drives so smooth, it's like butter, and just like a GT car, for example. But that's I think part of it too.
Yeah, and I remember when I first got my license, I never kind of sunk in until it was my full license, where I could just drive by myself without an adult present. And it just hit me when I was driving back to on my way back to high school. I was like, shit, this is complete freedom.
Yeah.
And I just had this overwhelming sense of I'm in control of my destination, where I want to go, what I want to do with my time. And it was just such an amazing feeling. And it's crazy to think about. It's just seems like a step. For most people, it's a step in life. I need to get my driver's license and then I can drive. But when you're a car guy, it's you spend so much time dreaming about cars and driving and playing video games, and then you get there and you're like, wow, this is for real. I can do this.
Yeah, and then it's the start of it. It really is a transformational time, and it just changes kind of who you are in a sense. You might have been a car guy before, but then as you get more comfortable driving and you're just kind of doing it and it's more fun. And honestly, I think that's also why so many of us like the loud exhaust in our cars. Even if you have a shit box, just the fact that you can hear when you hit the accelerator, it makes it more exciting. You can hear when you're accelerating, you banging gears or whatever you're doing, and you just hear the car underneath you. It's alive, it's moving, and you're in control of it. And that's also, I think, really kind of, it's addictive, really.
Yeah. So that was the first point, aspiration.
Yeah.
The next point is
This is deeper.
Emotional connection.
Deeper, yeah. We're getting into the relationship stuff with your car. So, yeah, so this is all about the emotional connection. And for a lot of us, this is a big part of it. And I know that because I definitely have that with my car. Like, whenever someone, like, this has happened multiple times now, you know, I'll be like, no, I wish I, like, made more money, blah, 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 whatever. And they'll be like, oh, why don't you just sell your car? And I just drown it out. I don't even listen to it. Yeah, I literally yeah, exactly. It's like an attack on your, like, it's like selling your limb or something. It's like, you can't just sell it. Like, sure, I'll get the money, but, like, that's never going to bring me the same happiness as the car does. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, of course, it depends what car you have. If you have something that's, you know, mass produced, and, like, it's easy to get another one, maybe. But even then, you probably still build this, like, connection with your car. You know, you drive it all the time. You probably think it knows your driving style. To some extent, it might. I don't know. But I like to think it does. I feel like it changes shifting patterns based on who's driving. But, I mean, that's, you know, that's getting into the whole philosophical thing with cars. But yeah, I feel like the emotional connection is a big part of it, especially because I think that's what the general public lacks, where car guys and girls are slightly different. Like, we know what it feels like to drive a car. We really get into it, and it's not just point A to point B anymore. It's enjoying the experience of being behind the wheel. Yeah,
I definitely get that. And the way I compare it is, like, I like food, but I won't go out of my way to, like, create experiences. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's, for me, most of the time, it's just calories.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
My girlfriend's going to hate this, but that's how I see it. So, like, but a car for me is not just point A to point B. It's, like, just the enjoyment and the journey there. And, like, the being able to, let's say, I want to, like, drive chill and, like, you know, follow all the traffic laws and not speed, then I can do that. And I'll, you know, put on the radio, listen to some beats, and, like, you know, tweak with the bass settings and the tremble, and, like, make it perfect for the perfect experience. And then sometimes I'll just want to go mayhem and, like, put in sport and, like, manual shift and just go crazy and really get to experience the whole powertrain, the noises, all that. Yeah. So it's kind of like its own journey and own, like, kind of roller coaster of emotions, which is pretty amazing.
What I love too is just, there's one word to describe it: customization. Like, you can make it however you want it to. Like, it's a car, you can't turn it into an airplane, but you can change every little setting from whatever the seats are doing. You know, you can, like, I have this thing where I can make my passenger seat, like, exactly the same as the driver's seat, so it's, like, flush. And I do that every time I get out of my car. If my girlfriend changes it, I put it back. And it's just something that I like, because I can control it, and I can have it equal, and it looks nice, and it's presentable. And same with, like, the vents, you know, you can have them facing every which direction. You can turn on the seat heating. You can do whatever you want. And I think, like you said, like, being able to pop in sport when you want, being able to just drive chill, like, having a car like that, which is, like, what we have, kind of, like, it's addictive too. Like, just being able to tailor it really to what you're feeling and what you want to do. So yeah, that's I don't know, it's just a very big part of it to me personally. But yeah, this kind of brings us to, what is this? Like, you know, you hear all the time, like, people are like, oh, you need to, like, let your car warm up, it's bad for it and everything. It's like, oh, like, I have this personally too. Like, my car's in the garage right now because I don't want it to be out in the cold, and people think it's ridiculous, and I pretend like it's for the engine's sake, but it's just my emotional connection in the car. So I was doing some Googling and looking about, like, what is this? What causes this? Like, what's this, like, phenomenon called that we, like, care so much for some, like, an inanimate object? And it's called mechanical sympathy. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not. This is a first for me.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I always found myself, you know, like, if it's cold outside and I just start it and stuff, like, I can't just hit the rev limiter when I'm driving away. Like, I will cringe so hard and I'll feel so bad for doing that. And that's kind of what it is. It's really just, you know, how you wouldn't push your body to do extreme things or something like that, or you wouldn't harm yourself. You kind of extend that to your car in a way that you don't want to, like, damage it, or you don't want to do things that could, you know, reduce its longevity, so it has less time to spend with you. It's kind of morbid, but yeah, like, it's a really interesting thing, and it's a weird facet of the human brain, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't know this existed, but as soon as I heard the term, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's, like, self-explanatory.
Yeah, because, like, I remember I don't have that much emotional connection with BMW. Probably because it's wronged me so many times. It's like a love-hate relationship. But I remember my truck. This was my first vehicle, and I just babied the crap out of it.
Yeah.
And I remember like researching about engines and taking care of engines and all that, because I wanted to make sure that the truck itself was in perfect running condition.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't cause any damage, so I wouldn't hurt it, which sounds crazy. But
it does. To the outsider, it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. But I just wanted to take care of it and do as like the best job I could.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. And like we have this too, like especially after the winter, I get this like itch. I start feeling like I neglected my car, kind of like you'd maybe neglect a kid or something. It's like it hasn't been washed in months because it's just been shitty weather and everything. Like I need to do an oil change. I need to like clean the inside. I need to just take care of it. Maybe give it a good wax, and I'll feel so good afterwards too. It's like you're taking care of something and like making sure it's running properly. Everything's good to go. Especially if you do some work on the car too. Like I know if something's going wrong or something needs replacing, like if you do that, it almost feels like it drives better.
Yeah, because in a way you're like a direct result. Your work is a direct result of this machine running great.
Yeah, exactly.
The work itself, like doing the upgrades and always goes like south immediately. Because it's like, remember when we did the charge pipe? Yeah. It was like, oh, this is going to take 30 minutes. Easy. It's
never say that when you do it.
Yeah. And lo and behold, like, 2-3 hours later, hands covered in grease. And
trying to find different ways to shove it in and, like, hammering with our fists on something.
Yeah, bolts are cross-threaded and it's taped on. Half of it's taped on. But it's still, like, I still look at it, under the engine and, like, wow, like I did that. It looks like shit, but I did that.
Exactly.
And it's running fine. It hasn't broken, so.
That's the thing, right? And I even find that something as simple as like, okay, I'm going to put 94 octane in fill my entire tank with 94 octane. And like, such a simple thing. You don't need 94. It can run on 91. But just the fact that I put like a better fuel in it that's going to clean it better and everything like that, I feel great about that. And sometimes I'm honestly willing to pay that extra price just for that feeling, which is crazy. Realistically, it probably doesn't even matter that much, but just the idea. And again, this is going to sound ridiculous to people who don't like cars, but
they're probably clicked off the video by now. If they don't like cars.
Yeah, and then just the last thing I want to say is like the looks of a car. Like I know you and I both have this, and like obviously that's a big part of the aspiration as well, but when you have a car and you've built this emotional connection with it, you start also forming a connection with how it looks physically. I know I have that too. I have like hundreds of photos of my car on my phone. And even just like every time it looks like a little bit low or like it looks wide or something like that, or it looks in good lighting, I just take a photo and so I can admire it at a different time too. I'm at work and just pull it up. I'm like, nice.
Or in the bathroom stall jerking off to it.
Handicap bathroom stall. Yeah. Need that extra space. But yeah, okay. Let's move on from the emotional connection. So what's next after that? What else are we gonna cover?
The next one is curiosity, which I think is an understated, but also a pretty serious one.
Definitely. This might be kind of hard to see what it's about without even talking about it, but I think it all stems back to like humans being curious, and like how we came up with all the crazy machinery and technology that's in the world today is mostly because of curiosity. And like we want to know how complex things work. We built them in the first place, but then people who didn't build them also want to figure out how they work. So I feel like a car is kind of at that level where it's such a complex machine and there's so many moving parts that it intrigues us. It's like it's something that's alive in a way, like at the heartbeat of the rumbling engine, and you have all these moving parts that are just synchronized and working together perfectly to create the sound of an exhaust, for example, which we'll get to in a moment. But it's just like that, the idea that so much is going on and it's just like nothing's failing. It's working perfectly. And just the intricacies of how it's all put together. It's very intriguing.
I spend a lot of time, like, when let's say on cold start, just waiting for it to warm up, like just thinking like how crazy this is. Like, in front of me is, first of all, 6 mini explosions happening simultaneously, all in sync, all just moving one piece of metal, who then goes into transmission and moves more gears, then drives all 4 wheels, and all in sync, all very smooth, no like grinding, no nothing. And all this like as a result of all this, I'm propulsed forward. It's crazy
Unreal.
to think, like, just two liquids, I guess. The air, which is a really liquid, but the air and the gas.
Gas is also a gas.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
So two gases, really. Air and the sprinkle of gas, which turns into gas. Yeah.
It's a lot of gas. Okay.
It's crazy to think of, and like just how, I guess it's been around, like an engine has been around for over 100 years, but just how refined we've come.
Yeah.
And like sometimes also what I wonder is, like, this method has been used for so long, like what could we like make better at this point?
Yeah.
Because we've been using the same thing, like brakes, transmissions, engines, everything has kind of been around for many years. Like, what if we could innovate more? I feel like there's progression that hasn't really happened in the last few years.
Yeah, and again, that's curiosity. You know, you're like, how can we push this further and advance it? And that's just like the human way, but we just happen to have that for cars. And I especially have that, like, for example, when we did your charge pipe, or, you know, I fixed my intake valves, like stuff like that. It makes you appreciate what goes on in an engine too. Like, you see like how many things, even just like the little like O2 sensor plugs or something that you're taking off, and like all the stupid little pipes you have to disconnect and reconnect.
Yeah.
It's just like how much goes into building these things, and how much combined effort over like 100 years went into designing it to be absolutely perfect so it runs like that. And that's kind of part of it too, for sure. Like, just seeing all that and like how it all operates. But even like you said, something as simple as like, you know, watching the idle go down, and like how everything's just automated and the timing is perfect. It's it really makes you like wonder. You should get baked and think about that sometime. Be a good prompt.
Yeah, I think it would have hurt my brain.
Yeah, me too. All right, now for the good shit. The goosebumps.
Yes.
So everyone here should have a good idea of what I'm about to talk about here. It's the adrenaline, it's the excitement, it's the, you know, just when you either see a car, you hear a car, or you're about to buy a car. And all three of these, I think we both experienced.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the main thing, especially with my car, like I had an Infiniti Q45 before, which had a V8. That thing sounded really good, but something about, like, when I bought my Audi S8, it was completely stock. Like, I had to get to like 6,500 RPM to hear any V10 at all. Like, it was silent. And slowly, first I chopped out the resonators. That did pretty much nothing. And then I decided to do these cutouts at the rear. I'm still waiting to get enough money to buy an exhaust, by the way. So this is pretty butched. But I got these like caps that came off the back of the exhaust, so I can make it quieter if I want, that actually bypass the rear mufflers. So it's a downward firing kind of exhaust. And when I started that thing up for the first time, like, I can't even explain how that felt. Like, just hearing that, like, it sounded like I was starting up like an R8. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, it felt like I suddenly had this like insane machine, and it's literally just the same car I was driving the whole time. But just hearing it and like driving down the road, I just like, you just start laughing, you know. It's like, holy shit, you know. Like, if you guys haven't got an exhaust job and you have like a nice car, like, just fucking do it. Don't even think about it. Just do it. It doesn't have to be super loud, but just do any kind of mod, and trust me, it'll give you goosebumps. It'll make you laugh. And like, yeah, the first time I remember just like at a traffic light, kind of putting my foot down. I'm just like, what the fuck did I just create, you know? But no, that's the first thing I'll talk about.
Yeah, I had kind of the opposite reaction. So I got a different cat for my car, like catalytic converter, and I remember starting it, and I was like I brought it to a shop and they did it. I was like, the fuck, did it do anything? Because it literally sounded the same. I was like, should I go back in? Like, maybe they got the wrong car. And I went in the box, like in the back, because they gave me the old cat, and I was like, oh shit, no, it's still,
damn,
it's been changed. But yeah, I'm still waiting to have that, because I haven't really experienced the whole like complete different. I mean, it's the same car, but it's complete different experience.
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely have to get on that, because I even had it with my Infiniti. Weirdly enough, like, I was just like a stupid teenager, but just like, I remember, because my dad told me I couldn't get my car straight piped. He's like, no, it's too obnoxious, you can't do that. So I got the resonators removed first, and it was pretty loud. Like, it's a V8, they're always pretty loud. and like it sounded good. And then kind of a year went by, or whatever, and kind of wanted it to be a bit louder. And I'm just like, Dad, what would I have to do to straight pipe my car? And he's like, go for it, I don't care. I'm like, what? Were you telling me this earlier? So I went to the shop like literally the next day. I'm like, let's go. Like went to the local Lube and Muffler. I forget what the place is called. And yeah, I'm just like, yo, chop the rest of the shit out. I only want the cats. The rest is take it out. And just like same thing. Like when I got there, like the receptionist lady came out. She's like, you gotta hear this thing, and just started it up and just like, yeah, that thing was ridiculous. It's even louder than my Audi.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that thing was insane.
Yeah, it's honestly just ridiculous because it's not even like a nice car, and it's just like a typical like shit box, quote unquote, driving around. But to me, it was great. Honestly, I didn't really care who I annoyed.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the other thing I want to talk about is like, I only just recently realized how much people hate loud cars, and like regardless of what the car, like I always thought like, you know, people hear V10 that's loud and they're like, oh shit, that sounds awesome, but the main reaction is just like, shut the fuck up. Like, and I get it. Okay, if you're driving by like midnight or something, or like you're being a dick and driving by like a toddler with their mom, like, okay. But like, I'm talking about people on the road, you know, you're just like, they're in their own car with the windows closed and they hear like a pretty nice sounding loud car drive by. Like, I just never knew that was a thing. I thought people could just appreciate it, but apparently that's not a thing.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of, if you think about it, like, what's a genre that you hate of music?
Yeah, okay, like metal or something.
Yeah, like if you're not a fan of metal and like heavy metal, like screaming into the mic, you could probably be like, okay, this sounds like shit. Like, I don't want to listen to this. Whereas, I guess a car guy kind of, it sounds like music to them. It's like, it's a loud, it can be annoying, but it's like, so for me, I love cars. I love like loud cars. But the one thing where I draw the line is Harleys. I hate with a
passion. I get it now.
Harleys.
Never mind. I just completely understood.
Yeah. Okay. Whenever
they're
technically they fit the category. They're loud exhaust, like cut off and, you know, make a bunch of noises. But the noise just angers me.
That's true. Yeah. Oh, that's actually weird. I didn't think about Harleys actually. Because if you think about it, like the only way I can explain it is like it doesn't sound exotic. Like the reason I like the sound of like, I also won't like bat an eye if I hear like a four banger like Civic on the highway. You know what I mean? It's when you hear like a high revving V8 or you hear like a V10, V12, whatever, and you hear that going down the road, you almost snap your neck. You're like, where the hell's that coming from? I want it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the other thing, and something else I wanted to get into is like, why do we love the sound of our cars so much? And like some people, there's a spectrum here, because some people just like, you know, when you're in the cabin, you hear a bit of a grumble, you know. I personally, I like that for a long time. I still do. I'll probably go back to that at some point when I'm done being obnoxious. But at some point, like, there's also people like me, like, I also don't want like a fully straight pipe car. That's a little too much. Like when it's just like, you know, backfiring like crazy and spitting flames or whatever the hell, you know.
I would love that.
It depends on the car, right? Like,
yeah.
Like for my car too, like it's loud. It's honestly a little too loud for what it is, but it can be quiet. And that's kind of what I like about the car too, is if I let my foot off the throttle or I just drive normally, it sounds completely fine. Sure, it has a bit of a rumble when you accelerate, but it's nothing ridiculous. But when you step on it, like opens the valves and everything, it's ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are. Like, why do you think we have this innate liking of exhaust sounds?
That's the thing. I don't really know. I don't know if there was ever a point in my life where I was like, I heard a loud car and I was like, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah, it's true.
So I don't know if I was like conditioned at a young age, like loud noises from a car equals good, or I just grew into it, or maybe like you unlock that perk when you just automatically like cars at a young age. So yeah, like it's hard to say. I do have preferences, like, you know, some cars I'll hear, like I don't know, some Mitsubishi Lancer, like not even the Evo, just the base Lancer with like a cut off exhaust, and like, okay, that's gonna be annoying.
Yeah.
But I still understand the noise. I feel like as a car guy, you like understand. It's like, I don't know, someone playing the piano, like someone who knows piano will understand the notes. Whereas a car guy, you hear an engine and you can understand like this is a 4-cylinder, this is a V8.
Exactly.
And then with there, like in those categories, you can kind of have your own preferences.
And that's another thing too. Like our significant others, for example, they always ask us like, how do you know what kind of engine that is when it drives by? How do you even explain that? I don't know. I just know. You hear the sound. It's the sound that you just know what it is. You know what I mean? It's very interesting, but also it's this kind of relation, like you said, to music. It's that like, you know, if you have a certain type of music or a song that you really like that really gets you like feeling happy or excited, or, you know, even gives you goosebumps. There's songs like that, you know? And I think that's what a lot of car guys have with cars, with engine noises. And like when you hear, like for me especially, what comes to mind right away is just hearing those old V12 F1 cars.
Yeah. And
just like when they fly by, I just literally, sometimes I'm just catch myself, even if I'm watching a video, I'll just have my eyes closed, like just enjoying the sound. Like it just sounds so good. But yeah, other than that, I can't really explain it.
Maybe we should do like a car exhaust ASMR channel.
Ooh, maybe we should. Leave it in the comments if you guys want that. We'll do that too.
A V12 8-hour ASMR video.
Just looped so you can study or something.
Yeah.
That's motivation for you to get your work done, I guess.
Exactly.
But yeah, last thing I want to talk about with this, so the goosebump part, acceleration. And this is something that cannot be overlooked, because a lot of you might not have had the experience yet, and if you haven't, you should seek it out at any means necessary, of having an insane powered car and either being a passenger or driving it yourself and just feeling the power and feeling that roller coaster like effect that just sparks adrenaline. So for me, that was two things that come to mind. First, when I was younger, my dad had an Audi A6 all-road, and he tuned that thing with like huge turbos and stuff like that. Man, I just remember on the highway, we were just going highway speed, and he would just like accelerating or whatever, like going like up to highway speed. And I was like, oh, it's pretty fast. And my dad's like, oh no, I was just like getting on the highway, and he just like pops it down 2 gears and like hits it, and holy shit, like the turbo hits so hard, like my head, like almost knocked myself out on the back of the seat. And then the second one that comes to mind, also turbo related. So in essence, you know, try driving a turbo car. Obviously NA is cool too, but is when I was in Vancouver with one of my friends who did like photography shoots of supercars. And he was meeting up with this guy who had a 1,000 horsepower GTR. It was like a chrome blue that it was looked like, and
go show off.
Yeah, literally. And one of his, this wasn't even him, it was one of his people that worked in the shop. He's like, oh, before we go do it, can you go wash it? And he's like, to me, he's like, you want to come? I'm like, yeah, definitely. So I was just like, yeah, just talking to him or whatever, and I get out of the parking lot and he pins it, and just like second, third, fourth gear, and I just look over, he's going like 190, and the thing blew the air out of my lungs. Like, I don't even know how to explain that feeling, but I was high for like the rest of the day. It's so addictive, and like definitely gave me goosebumps. But do you have any experiences like that?
Yeah, I haven't been, I guess, like super high horsepower car, not yet. Working on that, but I've been to a couple events where you get to ride passenger in like on the racetrack, and that's insane.
Yeah.
So it was just, I don't know, it was like some Porsche GT3 or something, so nothing like crazy, no race car, but I just remember like experiencing real G-force for the first time, because it was like a harness and I had a helmet, and just getting like thrown around in the corners and like, you know, braking and like hitting my head forward. It's such a weird experience. Like you're doing all this movement, but it's not you. You're not in control of these movements. And I just remember like going like flying down the straightaway, and like everything just the world becomes so small. Yeah. Everything beside you is just non-existent. You just focus on the racetrack, the corner, and that's it. That's all you can think of in the moment. And it's such a insane experience, and I'm definitely looking forward to having that again, because like watching a video, you don't understand and feel the speed. It seems fake almost.
Yeah,
it's like,
it does.
Oh, like cool, like he did 7 minutes around the Nürburgring or whatever, like yeah, I can do that. But then like when you get to feel it, you experience so much in so little time that you have to process it for the next 2 days after.
Yeah, it really is like that.
Move on. So the second last one, the mental health.
Yes.
Huge one.
Definitely. And not only does it help you to strengthen your mental health, it can also really offer a way for you to, you know, kind of get away from the world. And that's kind of something I've really, really valued in the past, especially like moving to a new city, especially when I moved to Toronto and like I didn't know very many people. I was just often just like in my apartment alone. And sometimes I just escape and go drive in my car a bit, go explore some new neighborhoods and stuff like that, put some music on, and it just brought me so much peace and like, you know, really got my mental health back in order if I was feeling a little bit depressed or whatever, or, you know, just a bit down from like a long day. I would just go for a drive and like go enjoy my car, go on the highway, you know, go on the on-ramp and hit the throttle a bit. It's just, it can cure so many things. And I've heard a lot of stories about that too. You know, people that are like super upset and cars just bring them so much joy, or it reminds them of like a good time with like a friend or like a significant other on a road trip or something that really just kind of brings them back to the present.
Yeah, I've had like a lot of that with my current car. So like during COVID, I didn't have a car. Because it didn't make sense. Like I wasn't going anywhere. And after a while, after like 2-3 years just working from home, I got so, I guess, burnt out. I didn't see a reason in like working this hard. Like I was doing insane hours, working a bunch of overtime, and like I was doing good money, but like, why? I was like, well, what's the point? And then when I started to think and like kind of look back, I was like, I miss having a car. I miss the freedom of being able to go skiing this weekend, because why not? And I just went out, bought this car. It took a while because I like was very specific with what I wanted.
Yeah.
But I remember just sitting in this car and like driving home, and I was like, this is why I work.
Remember I came with you?
Yeah.
That was a good time.
Yeah, you came with the purchase and picking it up. And yeah, on the way home, I was like, this is why I was working my ass off.
Yeah.
This is why I did all this overtime and, you know, like these 7-day shifts and all that bullshit, because I wanted like a reward. And
exactly.
I find it also, sometimes I feel lost. I just, you know, the life gets at you, and, you know, I feel overwhelmed, so many things to do, and I just go for a drive. Like I'll just hop in, no destination, no nothing. It can be 5 minutes, it can be an hour. And I find just driving kind of lets your subconscious take over, because you're focusing on the driving part. So it's not like your main thought process, but the back of your head will like still process what's going on. And then I come home and I'm like, oh shit, like I just found a solution to my problems, or like I planned out my couple next days and what I'm gonna do to progress in life, and it feels less overwhelming.
Definitely. Yeah, that's very well said. And I think like for a lot of people, it's also just like, it's like a cozy place to be yourself too. Like you can, like we mentioned before, you can listen to whatever you want. Like I personally just love, like if I'm going on a drive late at night, and especially if it's raining, and like go to like a parking lot or somewhere where it's a bit quieter, and just kind of sit there listening to music, maybe get like a coffee or something, and just really think about life. Or even while you're driving, like just thinking, and like not being able to be on your phone is so hard these days, but you can't be when you're driving. So that's another thing. It just gives you that break from like your crazy life. And like you said, sometimes you even come up, it's kind of like being in the shower, right? You're forced to do nothing, so you end up thinking about things and thinking things through and letting your mind process everything that's going on. And yeah, that's hugely transformational, I think, too. Especially if you are someone that is struggling with like mental health and even like suicidal thoughts and stuff. Like it can seriously change like how you think about stuff and make you think about life.
Be careful though, don't go driving off of bridges.
Yeah, don't be smart with this. Come on, guys. Like yeah, like obviously be reasonable. Like don't use it as a weapon of mass destruction. But yeah, I feel like if you are, you know, even just going with like a friend or like your significant other and going for a drive, even having a good long conversation with them in a parking lot, or, you know, do whatever else you want in the backseat with them. I don't know.
True. Unless you got a coupe, then it's kind of like, I don't know.
That's a bit tough, yeah. Or like a middle console that won't go down. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, I feel like it's a good escape in a way from life, and just, again, being yourself. Yeah. All right, now what's the problem with cars? We've talked about all the good stuff. And all the stuff that car people always talk about is the pros of having cars, but what about the problems?
Yeah, those are pretty hard hitting, I would say.
It hurts deep down, right here in the gut.
Obviously, in a previous episode, we talked about a dream garage, and we came to the conclusion that it is in the millions.
Multiple millions for some of us.
Multiple millions. So money is always involved in cars. It's something you can't escape. It's one of the, I would say, like one of the biggest pits in life.
Definitely.
Like, even if you don't care about cars and try to go as cheaply as possible, you still need all the running costs, maintenance, insurance, gas. You know, you have to buy the fucking thing.
Yeah.
If you're financing, then you're going to pay finance and interest.
Exactly.
And there's just so many costs associated to a car that it's insane.
It's not anything but cheap.
Yeah, it's insane. It's, as a hobby too, like, it's just not feasible because you're just constantly dumping money into it. You know, if you're buying mods or like restoring or doing all these things to the car, and then when you sell it, it's actually going to devalue it, and then you on to the next thing, and you know, you'll probably never make money, unfortunately.
That's the thing, and it's also just like, it can be a vicious cycle. Like, say if you do have the ability to get like financing for like your dream car, right? And you've wanted this for years, and you're like barely scraping on the down or like the deposit, the down payment, and then you have all those extra costs too, and you find yourself slaving like hard hours at work just to be able to do this, and sacrificing time with your family, and like you're not even able to drive the thing because you literally spend so much time at work. Like, it gets to this point where it becomes unhealthy too. So that's another problem too that I could see us going down to, and I'm gonna try to be mindful not to do that, but just being reasonable about what kind of car you can currently afford, and just keep saving if you need to, and like make it like a larger term goal, or get a side hustle or something, but just don't work too long and sacrifice everything just to be able to buy that car, because you could die tomorrow and then you have nothing. So
yeah, and that's kind of what I'm going through right now with this whole do I buy the next car? It's like substantially more than my current car.
Yeah.
And like, I fell in love with this thing. Like, I really want it, but it's just so hard to overcome the purchase, the money aspect, because it's a big commitment.
It is.
It's
like having a kid.
Yeah, I mean,
of $1 million.
Luckily you can just sell the car. I don't think you can sell kids, but
it's always the black market.
Yeah, true. So yeah, like if I can't afford it, but still, then, you know, what about all the money already sunk into it? So
that's the thing. Yeah, it all adds up, and like, I mean, that's the thing. You got to be able to, like, you know, like the rule that it's the buy it twice rule. You need to be able to afford the purchase price twice for a car to be able to afford the running costs and the maintenance costs. So that's another thing you might want to keep in mind. Like, say if you want a $100,000 car, make sure you have $200,000 saved up for all the extra miscellaneous costs that come along with it. And that's just, I guess, a general rule. But
yeah. I've done that for like all my cars, but even then, like, it's still hard.
Double. Yeah,
but just the aspect, because like, you get to a point where you can afford it twice, but you work so hard to get there. You're like, all this hard work, or at least half of all this hard work, is going to go to one possession. Yeah. Just one thing that I don't know if it's running right. I don't know if it's going to cause me headaches. I don't know if I'm even going to like it. Yeah, it's a good point. It's very hard to like detach from that kind of money aspect.
Yeah. And I think at the time you buy it, it's like that, and then you kind of get used to it. But obviously, I've noticed myself even do this when I have a larger purchase and I end up sitting down with it and it's silent, no one else is around me. I'm like, so that's it? You know? Like, sure, it's a sweet car, but like, you just spent hours of your life. For most people, some people earn a lot of money, but some people need to work hours and hours and like thousands of hours before they can buy a car like that. And just thinking about that, all that is piled right there in that one belonging, like you said, that can be pretty, like, it can hit you pretty hard, and like maybe even cause like a crisis or something, you know, if you don't think about it properly. So obviously take your time to like, if you really are sure you want to do this and you have the financial means, just think hard about it and make the right decision, because like, obviously you can sell it, but you just want to make sure it makes financial sense too.
Yeah, and other things like obviously the danger. Another problem is the danger, because if you like cool fast cars, it means you're going fast, and you know there's always the risk of accidents, injury. The thing could light on fire. There's always risks involved.
Definitely.
So that's a big thing to keep in mind, especially like when you're not very experienced, like especially young drivers, they don't know what the limit is.
Yeah. And
you don't know, like you don't find out the limit until you've crossed it, and then that's when you get in dangerous situations.
Exactly. As Jeremy Clarkson wisely said, it's not speed that kills, it's the suddenly standing still that gets you.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But yeah, no, in all seriousness though, like that is a big aspect, and like obviously if you are into cars, you're always trying to test the limits of your car. You're like, let's see how hard I can hit this corner. Let's see how quick I can go on the highway, or like let's see how it does when I pass all these cars, very Russian driver like. And you know. But it's things like that that'll, you know, it'll seriously up your probability of getting into an accident, or, you know, getting killed or injured or whatever. So yeah, just be mindful of that. And like what I do too, and I don't know if you do this too, but I have like a hair tie that my girlfriend gave me on my rearview mirror so that I can like remind myself, like, don't be an idiot. Because there's a reason to live, you know? And yeah, even if you have mental health, that could be a good idea. Mental health problems, it could be a good idea to do that too. Have some token of a reminder why you need to stay in this world, you know?
Yeah.
'Cause sometimes it is like that.
And a lot of people say, like, bring it to the track. Don't race on public roads.
Exactly.
It's not realistic. Like,
yeah,
you and I can't afford a track day. That we're talking about 10.
Easier said than done. Exactly.
Yeah. So, like, saying take it to the track is not really realistic, but be smart about it. Don't do crazy stuff on the highway to like rush hour.
Yeah.
Just go on back roads where if you're gonna veer off and kill someone, it's gonna be you. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Keep it to
not ideal, but
yeah, like that's the rule of thumb.
Yeah, and obviously this all comes down to like, you know, everyone has their own preference. There's so many different cars out there, and the fact that we can all find this love together and like all come together, like car shows are a great example, you know, where everyone likes something different, but we can all agree that we love cars, and that's kind of what builds this community so strong too. And obviously you guys listening too, that makes us so connected in a way, like just that love for cars. And like it's a rare breed, you know, the car guy or girl is pretty rare in this world, I feel like sometimes.
There's a lot. I feel like it used to be very united. Now with kind of I feel like the internet has helped, but also kind of separated communities. There's, you know, usually a lot of hate, like, you know, truck guys will hate exotics, and then exotics will hate.
Yeah, that's true. There is some like
JDMs.
Polarization. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're all sharing this one passion for cars, and just reminder to stay positive. And
yeah, exactly. And like we're all there for the same reasons. Like we just have this like innate curiosity and just like this love for something that, you know, man created, which is pretty unique. And I feel like it's a pretty cool thing to celebrate. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you at some car shows.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Anything you want to add, Kevin?
No, that's it.
Yeah, that was a deep episode. Damn, I'm getting emotional. Shit. Gonna have to go cry in the bathroom after this. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching episode 24. Next week will be our 25th episode. We're almost been doing this for half a year straight.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Pretty crazy already. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Feel for Thought episode 24, and we'll see you guys next time.
Goodbye.